very good question. I would like to get a little bit more information if that's okay. So is it the load that's the problem, or is it the intensity that's the issue?
It's a load. It's a load at the moment. What I have is quite rare, so there isn't a lot of information around it, but it seems to be, I can still go to a point of failure, but the higher the load and the lower the reps, things seem to be a bit more difficult.
Got it. Okay. Oh, well, so there's lots of different ways to increase intensity and tension. One of them is with load. Obviously, that's being taken off the table for you. You could slow your reps down. You could do isometric training, which is very, very valuable. You could do higher reps. Studies actually show higher reps performed at high intensity can be almost as effective as low reps. So just do those things, and I think you'll be okay. As far as isolation versus compound, you'll probably have to do a little bit more volume, but feel it out. And then here's something that might make you feel better. What you do to build muscle, oftentimes you can maintain it with much less work, load, and intensity. So in other words, if you built 10 pounds of muscle doing heavy deadlifts and squats and presses and whatever, and you've kept that 10 pounds for a while, maintaining it, it's a lot easier to maintain it. You don't have to do quite as much volume, intensity, and load to maintain than you did when you were building.
I would definitely, tempo is where I would go here, right? So I would just slow down the tempo. And I mean, I'm watching Doug right now training, and he's following, we have a new program that we're working on, and he's following some of the protocol. And, the tempo is a 4-2-2 in there. And I know I think your experience right now with it's been, you've never experienced this, right?
No, I have had to reduce my weight dramatically.
Yeah. So which in this case, this is a perfect example of because you can't do heavy load. And there's nothing that said, even though the research points to like 4-2-2, right? So 4 seconds on the negative, 2 on the isometric, and then 2 seconds on the concentric. Doesn't mean you can't do 6-2-2. Doesn't mean you can't do 8 with a pause for 4 seconds. I mean, you can really manipulate and play with tempo a lot, and it will make it feel like it is heavy as shit, and it doesn't have to be that heavy.
Yeah, and just increasing your tension while going through that lift too, just intrinsically, like just squeezing harder as you're doing these reps as well even makes a difference. There's just a multitude of ways to add progressive
overload.
Yeah, Phoebe, there was one time I had only had access to a gym where the dumbbells went up to 30 pounds. And so for me, for a lot of exercises, that's too light. So what I did was exactly what we're telling you is I went really slow. I focused hard on the squeeze. I did lots of pauses, lots of isometrics, lots of slow repetitions. And to my surprise, my body improved. I actually got good results from it, so much so that it became something that I injected into my regular routine.
Okay. That's great. What about the strength side of it? Because if that's muscle building and stuff like that, does strength have to be in the low rep range? Can you still use the same?
You're gonna build strength doing that also.
Yeah, you'll build strength doing that also. But here's the thing you have to understand is that strength is also a skill. So if you're not practicing something specific often, will you lose quote unquote strength in that particular thing? Probably. So in other words, if you are really strong at 2 reps with a squat, and then you go and perform, 30 reps with a squat, like general strength, you'll probably be okay. But yeah, you're going to lose some strength in the thing that you're not practicing very often. And a lot of that has to do with the skill of the lift. But as far as how you look, how you feel, if anything, you're probably going to notice some benefit from this change.
What I really like with isometrics is the way that you can actually apply a lot of max intensity. So you can do that in a safe manner where, you can also structure so you don't do quite as many reps. So you can sort of emulate what you would be doing with compound lifts, but now you're squeezing your entire body and ramping it up as high as you can go intensity wise, but then you can also back off at any time.
Okay, that's great. That's great.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, Phoebe.
Cheers, thank you.
Well, it's cool. Someone calling from France. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that all the way over there. But yeah, we tend to get caught up.
I was really curious to why or what.
It didn't sound like clear. I don't want to pry.
I know. I felt the same way too. I was hoping you would, but you didn't. So I really wanted to know what it was, because sometimes too, sometimes that the doctors go this route because they just for safety, right? They don't want to be sued,
right?
And so they don't know a lot about what's going on. So it's
all
like
liability.
Yeah, it's like you cannot ever lift heavy again. It's too risky.
Yeah.
And it's like, man, I would like to know a little more.
That's why I said intensity versus load, because often it's intensity that the doctor says, because I could go, look, I'll tell you what, like, yes, let's say I could squat 400 pounds for 1 rep. That's a lot of load and intensity. Or let's say I squatted 250 pounds for 30 reps. The intensity is probably higher on that 30 rep set of squats.
Or take that 200 pounds and do just 4 reps still,
super slow.
But do them slow. Do a 5-6 second negative, and I'll tell you what, it'll feel like it's
grueling.
It'll feel like it's 400 pounds.
And that's what I mean. If it's intensity, you got to be careful for. Then it doesn't matter. Load, it's how intense the set is. But she said specifically load, so I'm assuming it has something to do with her connective tissue and her joints, something that is causing issues with her
sort of instability.
Yeah, that's what I'm assuming.
Yeah.